everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing the Jade Longline Corset made by Glamorous Corset. So here's the front, the side, the back, and the other side. The center front of this corset is 12 inches. At the princess seam here, from under the bust to the top of the lap, is 10 inches and is pretty well distributed. 5 inches above the waist and 5 inches below the waist when measuring the bottom of the waist tape as my marker point for where the waistline is. At the side seam here, it's just a little bit longer at 11 inches, and in the center back, it's a little bit higher again at 12.5 inches. Today I'm wearing the size 22, and when I measured it out of the box brand new, it indeed measured 22 inches in the waist, so it measures true. The rib cage here, the underbust measures 29 inches, so it has a 7-inch rib spring. Now this is just a tiny bit more of a rib spring than they mentioned on their website. They said that this pattern is drafted to accommodate a 6-inch rib spring. So I actually don't mind the extra space because I tend to squish up. So if this is a little bit of an anomaly in measurements, it's a welcome one in my case. The high hip here, where you can see it kind of curves over the hip, this is a 10-inch hip spring, so it measures 32 inches when laced closed. And the very bottom edge, which is about an inch or an inch and a half lower than that, gives a hip spring of 11 inches. It measured 33 inches. In terms of the silhouette, this corset is not extremely conical. It does have a little bit of rounding in the ribs here, but it's not like markedly round either. Like when I turn to the quarter profile here, you can see that it is relatively, kind of straight here. So I would say that this is more straight than it is round. It will definitely pull in the floating ribs. If you have a tapered rib cage, you will find this sort of corset comfortable, but if you have protruding ribs, you might find that this corset puts quite a lot of pressure on them. The hips are also a little bit rounded, as you can see that there is a kind of like a demarcation where you can see that the hip spring kind of juts out and then rounds downwards. I had a similar situation with this corset as I did with their Dita corset that I reviewed last year, because when I first took it out of the box, it didn't look to be extremely curvy, and when I looked at the product photos again on the model, it didn't look to be extremely curvy. It did look nice, but not that curvy. But when I put it on, it's kind of like one of those situations where a piece of clothing is not really that impressive when it's on the hanger, but it just comes to life when it's on a body. So I guess this is one of those situations where you just shouldn't judge a book by its cover. So let's go to the tabletop portion of this review and I can show you the other details of this corset close up. So here is the Jade corset laid flat, and for the materials it's all cotton twill. So the fashion fabric is made from cotton twill. There is a cotton interlining between the layers, and it is also lined in black cotton twill. This is what the Glamorous Corset label looks like, and it's on both sides of the label. Here is the fabric content and cleaning instructions. And if you're looking for the size, that is actually up here by the binding. So you can see the size 22 on that side, and there's another size 22 on the other side. This corset has a 6-panel pattern, so 1, 2, 3 make the front, 4, 5, 6 makes the back. You can see the side seam here, and panels 3 and 4 have plenty of hip spring here, as well as quite a bit of rib spring as well. Panels 1 and 2, they do converge like a tiny bit, but it is mostly vertical here, and same with panels 5 and 6 in the back here. Panel 5 has a little bit of curve to go over the bum, but yeah, mostly vertical. And like all other corsets made by Glamorous Corset, it's constructed using the welt seam method. So they constructed all the layers together, starting with panel 1 and going towards panel 6, with the seam allowances pressed towards the back here. Top stitch, you can see, is visible on both the fashion fabric side and on the lining side, because how the welt seam method works, it creates boning channels as you go. And you can see the faint outline of the waist tape in this corset, so it's invisibly stitched between the layers. You can see that it's 1 inch wide, and it starts here in the center front right by the busk, and it goes to the back at least towards the seam of panel 6 right there.
The binding is made from matching strips of black cotton twill, and it's machine stitched on both the outside and the inside. On the outside they did a tiny little stitch in the ditch here, and on the inside you can see that there is a necessary seam allowance. Now they did not fold under the binding here, so possibly because with the twill binding maybe it was a little bit too thick and they didn't want it to be too bulky, so perhaps that's why they opted to just overlock or serge the seam here and then just stitch it down flat. Additionally, there are 6 garter tabs in this corset, 3 on each side. And the Modesty panel in this corset is 5.5 inches wide, unstiffened, sewn onto one side of the corset here. If you don't like Modesty panels, you can remove it with a seam ripper, but it's probably going to take out those tags as well. And it's finished in black cotton twill on the outside and also on the inside. Additionally, there is a Modesty placket extending out from the knob side of the busk here, also unstiffened and finished in the matching black cotton twill. The busk in this corset is 11 inches long and it has 5 loops and pins. The last 2 are a little bit closer together to give more control over the lower tummy. It's a 1/2 inch wide on each side, so it's a standard flexible busk, and it's about standard rigidity as well. This corset has a total of 24 bones, 12 on each side, double boned on the seams as I mentioned before, with 1/4 inch wide spiral steel bones. And you can see that they do attract my magnet. And in the back here, it has a 1/4 inch wide flat steel bones on either side of the grommets. They attract my magnet less. As I mentioned in previous Glamorous Corset reviews, they use stainless steel flat steel bones, which contains less iron. That's how they get it to rust less, because it contains less iron. But because there's less iron, it also means that it attracts my magnet less. And there are a total of 24 grommets in the back of this corset, 12 on each side. They are more or less equidistantly apart, a little bit more than 1 inch apart. They are sized 00 with a small to medium flange around them and finished in silver. And here's a close-up of the underside, so you can see the washers present. They're all holding in fairly well. There are splits in each one of these grommets, but they tend to not catch on the laces because the laces themselves are pretty abrasion resistant. And your laces are your standard workhorse. They are 1/4 inch wide, black, flat, nylon shoelace style laces, and they hold the knots and the bows well. They do have a little bit of spring to them, but they lose their spring pretty easily, and they definitely don't break on you, which is more important. They don't catch on the splits on the grommets, which is the important part, and they're definitely very, very long, almost bordering on too long. So if you do want to cut them to length, you can. Just make sure you don't cut too much.
The Jade corset is available in black cotton, like you see here, and it's available in closed waist sizes 18 inches up to 40 inches. It's $89 US, and one of the changes that Glamorous Corset recently made was they no longer charge extra for the plus size corsets. It's all the same price all the way through. Some other changes that they made in the past year since the last time I reviewed them, they now offer free 2-day shipping for any of their customers in the US, and now they're able to ship their corsets worldwide. So this concludes my review of the Jade corset made by Glamorous Corset. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new. If you did, please remember to click that like button down there as it helps support this channel. If you have any comments or questions about this corset or any of the other corsets I reviewed by Glamorous Corset, feel free to leave your questions down below. I'd be happy to get back to you or forward your questions over to Rachel. And if you own this corset or another corset by Glamorous Corset, let us know what you think of it in a comment down below, because I'm sure many of us would also be curious to know your thoughts. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next week for another video. Bye.